Assalamu alaikum everybody. Welcome to today's episode of The Seeker. Have you ever noticed the colors that surround you in your everyday life? Did you ever consider that the choice of colors you surround yourself with could have an impact on your behavior, your attitude, your state of mind? At Seekers Institute, we want to explore every avenue of personal development. And one of those avenues just happens to be color. My guest today is a color specialist who will share with us her passion for educating people on this topic. She'll talk to us about how she works with people to incorporate color in a meaningful way. Why is talking about color important? Are you making choices about color in your life that may be impacting you in a negative way? We'll talk about this and more. So let's meet our guest. Welcome back to The Seeker. I am your host, Arshad Anwar, and today with me, my guest is a color psychology specialist. I got that right?
Perfect.
Awesome. Mehnaz Khan. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on our show all the way from
New York.
New York. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and what keeps you busy in New York.
Colors. My life is all about colors. I sleep, eat, and breathe colors. I'm a mom of 3, and like you said, I'm a color psychology specialist.
So how does one become a color psychology specialist?
Well, first of all, you gotta love colors. So let's see what color psychology is. Color psychology is the study of how colors influence emotion, feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. So in simple words, I'm saying that every color is equal to an emotion. And I had that interest, and it was a lot because of my personal experience. So I got into this field.
So what was it about your personal life that got you so interested in colors?
So at one point, I was suffering from seasonal depression. I'm originally from Karachi, and I came to the US to do my master's. And we lived in Buffalo, New York. So when you're from Karachi, there is no word as seasonal depression in your vocabulary.
I'm from Karachi. I agree with you. Yeah, that's how it is.
So that was tough. Then I had a baby. I left my career. I came to the US for my master's, and I had this baby, so I was confused between, should I go back to my career? I did not want to put the baby in a full-time daycare. So a little bit of low self-worth. A woman goes through that when you're in between these decisions. So it was a tough time in my life, and I encountered a simple fact that your environment impacts your subconscious mind, and that changed my life. I also paint, so I was really into colors and intuitively felt like they did something on a deeper level. So I wanted to study it, and that's how I got here.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you talk about the environment having an impact on you, it's not just colors, but it's maybe who you surround yourself with, what you surround yourself with?
Yeah, exactly. Everything in your environment, every single element in your environment impacts your subconscious mind. And so many times we feel like anxiety, we're anxious, something is going on in our life, you're thinking about the future, but so many times it's none of that. It's the elements in your environment that is taking your subconscious brain, the safety part of the brain. Yeah. Being anxious is a sign of your brain indicating that there is something wrong. So it's just trying to protect you.
That's amazing. And so color is a part of this, and I guess, form of therapy that we can use?
Yes, color is the tool I use to help people feel more calm, more relaxed, stress-free, take care of anxiety, yeah.
So give us some examples of what we can do to incorporate this in our lives.
So the best way is to look out in nature. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has actually given us all the answers, and of course His color palettes are the perfect. We don't need to recreate the wheel. People are always like, we got to be innovative, we got to be creative, but at times you don't. And when people do this, I'm going to give you one example. Blue in food, blue does not exist in nature in food. That's a sign that Allah Ta'ala has created, that if your food has gone bad, it's blue, it's poison. So now we're trying to be innovative, and people are adding artificial coloring to food. So I'm sure you have experienced this. People say it's not appetizing, I lost my appetite, things like that. So thinking outside of the box is not always the best thing to do, and it can cause you anxiety.
That's interesting. And you mentioned about the color palettes that Allah has already created, right, in our environments. And it's interesting, there is a verse in the Quran that asks us to look at nature and the different colors that actually exist out there. So there's a direct drawing of our attention to the fact that God has made things in different colors.
Absolutely. So I want to add this here. My whole concept is that color is not aesthetics. It's a survival mechanism for our everyday life. And just imagine if we lived in a colorless world, if it was all black and white, how would we make basic decisions? And life would be so much harder because we would spend time, like your first cup of coffee in the morning, you just look at the color and you know, okay, that's enough creamer. Now you would be measuring if we were in a colorless world, and that would waste so much time. And again, going back to nature, we look at the external. When you're eating a fruit or a vegetable, you look at the external and it tells you a lot about the internal. So the same happens in our lives. The external environment you are in is going to impact the internal. And I think Allah Ta'ala has given us all the answers for this.
So this is interesting. So maybe if I'm choosing to dress in certain colors, is that coming from my subconscious mind?
Exactly, it is. So 97% of the decisions we make are at an unconscious level. Your choice of color, let's say favorite color. So today you like this color, tomorrow you don't like it. It's an indication that something is going internally, and it tells a lot about the emotions we're feeling, the behaviors, the feelings, the thoughts.
That's interesting. So one question that comes to mind is can people, or would it be considered fake if I purposefully started changing the color of my dress and my environment? Or is that something that's actually going to have an impact on me eventually?
So one example is pink or blue hair.
Yeah.
People do that.
Yeah.
So that's a clear indication that there's something, they're not self-satisfied or they're not sure about themselves. Something is going internally. So I color my hair red. But red exists in nature. It's a natural color that Allah Ta'ala has created: red hair, blonde hair, black hair, all of these colors. But when you go to pink or purple or blue, that does not exist in nature. So you're trying to overcome something.
Interesting. So I know you're going to be getting involved in making a new show. A bedroom and home makeover show?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
So the theme, the idea is coming from an HGTV inspired show where you have the space and you transform it. But what's different and unique about us is that we're enhancing the psychology of the space. So we're not basing it on looks or the latest trends. Trends are nowhere even close to me, but enhancing the psychology of the space. And what that means is that our spaces have a psychology, the elements, how these elements are impacting our emotions and our feelings, and the psychology internally. So that's what we're going to enhance by doing these makeovers. And again, the deeper purpose is if you're feeling anxious, or let's say the bedroom, somebody is not able to sleep well, they need a sleep-inducing environment, and colors can help us do that. There are colors. A couple of things need to happen for you to sleep. You need to mentally relax, you need to physically relax, and then you want to wake up refreshed in the morning, not drained in the morning. So there are certain colors that do that.
That's interesting, because you would think people just turn the lights off and they can't see anything. But it's the preparation, right? It's entering the environment and getting into the mood of this is the place where I rest.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So you mentioned that your audience largely is made up of women, correct?
I did, yes.
Do you have men that are interested in color therapy or in what you do?
I have had a couple of clients, couple of men who were really interested in it, but mostly it's women.
Wow. And do you find that men react differently to this than women?
Men definitely do react differently because biologically their cycle is very different. They live on a 24-hour cycle, whereas women live on a 4-week cycle. So they do react differently, but the psychological meaning, the implication of the color remains the same, whether you're a man or woman or whichever part of the world you come from. Your experience can make things different, but at the unconscious level, it's still going to be same.
That's interesting. So, your kids must be having a great time at home. They must be exposed to a large variety of arts and do the colors in your house change from time to time? Or
they don't change a lot because this is the best thing about color psychology. I'm not making a decision based on trends or something that looks good. So anytime, even as just a piece of pillow I bring in, it's a very conscious decision. Why do I need this color? What is the psychological meaning of the color? How it's going to impact me? And then I bring it in. So you don't need to change your decor, anything for a really long time. Like seasonal, forget it. But even for a very long time, because it's very purposeful. And also, I'm sure you've heard people say, like, we get bored, the latest trends, we get bored. You will not get bored when you make a decision that's not surface level. It's deep down. It's not a lame decision based on looks. And for my kids are, of course, they hear this all the time. They make fun of me also. And my 9-year-old, on a gloomy day, because we live in New York, on a gloomy day, he understands that it's gloomy, so he's going to go and wear a bright orange or yellow shirt. So they're also very conscious.
And well trained.
Yes, I think I'm doing it right, yeah.
So how does your husband feel about your work?
Well, my husband says if the wife is happy, he's happy.
There we go. So he's satisfied.
He's satisfied, and of course, he's very supportive. That's why I'm here today. I've left 3 kids with him.
Welcome to Atlanta, by the way. So, you flew all the way out from New York to Atlanta. When we're on the subject of color with you, obviously, I have to ask this question. What is your favorite color, if you have a favorite color, and what does it mean to you?
Well, you're right. I don't have a favorite color.
I figured, yeah.
So let's just talk about favorite colors in general.
Okay.
People think that color is a very subjective choice. So, people shut me up all the time like, I just like it, so you can't say anything. But color is not subjective. There's always a reason behind your color choices, and it's either one of the 3. It could be a personal experience, something that happened in your life, and you've attached that color to that story. Or it could be the other way also. A bad experience happened and you've attached that color to that story, and it's now your most unfavorite color. The second reason is color symbolism or color in culture. For instance, in Asia, let's say in India, the widow wears white, whereas in the West, the white is worn by the bride. And the third reason is color psychology. So if you cannot relate to the first 2 reasons, it's always the psychological impact of the color.
So you mentioned that you went through seasonal depression, the baby blues, and low self-worth. Tell us a little bit more about that. Go deeper if you can.
Yeah, so altogether, these 3 things are the recipe for depression. And I was suffering from depression at one point. And there was a point that once my doctor advised that I should go on antidepressants. And I did. So I started taking them. For 1 week, I was on my bed to the extent that I couldn't take care of my kids. My mom had to come to help. And I realized it was going to destroy my relationship with my spouse also. So I was like, I'm going to give up and I'm going to rely completely on willpower and motivation and do this on my own. But thankfully, I had that literally light bulb moment and things changed.
What was it that changed?
So I understood the value of my environment, and I understood that the external represents the internal. So if I want to be internally happy and joyful, my environment should tell the same story. So my subconscious mind sees that where I am and internally they're in alignment.
So tell us about a success story, how you helped your clients.
Oh yeah, so one of the recent ones, my client, we enhanced the psychology of her office. So she was having difficulty, concentration and focus. And it made total sense because once I looked at her space, the colors were not the colors that help build focus and concentration or push creativity. They were very draining. And there's a very fine line between calming and draining, and people often miss this. So again, not every color is the best color for your office. You got to be really particular about the purpose of your space, and then we use colors to match and fulfill that purpose.
Do you have any clients here locally?
Oh yes, I have a family that contacted me here in Alpharetta, and we will be enhancing the psychology of the bedroom, turning it into a sleep-inducing environment.
Wow.
The interesting part is that the couple, both of them are very different personalities, so that's going to be really fun to see how we bring that together, and I do have some techniques to work on that. Also, the wife is having some difficulty getting the best possible sleep. That makes, she's anxious. She wakes up in the middle of the night. That makes her husband anxious because she's not sleeping well. So we're transforming and enhancing their space.
Wow, that's really amazing. We like to, in our show, always leave our audience with some kind of practical advice, something that they can do right after watching this episode. So what would you encourage people out there to learn about themselves when it comes to the kinds of colors that are a part of their life?
That's a great question because people have a hard time embracing color. So you want to remember that color is equal to an emotion. Every color is equal to an emotion, and you don't want to live in one color in your space because we don't live in one state of emotion. Throughout the day, our emotions change, so you should have a couple of colors. And the thing that we already spoke about, that Allah Ta'ala has already created the best color palettes, so look out in nature for the answers.
That's excellent advice, and I really appreciate you coming on our show, brightening up our day.
Thank you so much for having me.
For lack of better words of saying it, but I really appreciate what you're doing. At Seekers Institute, we're always trying to find ways to help people develop themselves. And the more they can learn about what influences them positively, hopefully the more changes they can make.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right. I'll be right back with my closing thoughts. Assalamu alaikum, seekers. I want to take this time to personally thank all of you for watching season 1 of The Seeker. The show means a lot to me because it gives me the opportunity to speak with amazing people that make up our Muslim community. We have great minds and incredible talents at our disposal. Over the years, I've seen firsthand the kind of impact we can make in our lives when we start to invest in our own development. That development does not have to be at the expense of our faith or our values. Muslims throughout history have made a huge impact on this world. We have a faith that is logical, compassionate, and gives us a direct connection to our Creator. We have a faith that allows us to explore our God-given abilities and talents so that we can make the most out of them for this life and the next. I hope you enjoyed season 1, and I invite all of you to follow Seekers Institute on our social media channels and engage with us as we offer you, the seeker, opportunities for personal, spiritual, and professional development, along with activities that will bring fun into your lives. We at Seekers Institute thank you for your support. Our guest today shared with us the importance of color in our lives. She told us about the role our environment plays in influencing our emotional state. The way we structure our living and work spaces can have an impact on how we function in them. At Seekers Institute, we want to encourage people to take advantage of every possible avenue of personal development. There are many ways that we can add value to our lives. It's important that we open ourselves up to things we may have never thought about before, whether it's color or our attitude. We have to be willing to make the change that is necessary for our own benefit. So, now that you know, Seekers Institute can show you how.